Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici, welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to my channel, Fountain Pen Therapy. Today I have another pen review for you folks. Yes, it is another Chinese pen, and this pen brand is a little bit of a mystery to me, and the pen, in fact, is even more of a mystery. But it's a beautiful chatoyant blue galaxy type of a pen, and it really attracted me. And let me tell you how I got suckered into buying this thing, just as an introduction. It is an Admok branded pen. Very weird description on AliExpress. Something about customized, DIY, etc., 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 and it goes on for many, 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 many words. It's in sky blue, so it doesn't really have a name, but the pen was attractive because in the title they mentioned 14K nib, so 14 karat nib. I saw the price, so I said to myself, am I buying a 14 karat nib? And then, of course, a little bit misleading, because then when you go and choose the nib, the 14 karat nib wasn't there as an option. So some people might say, well, I'm buying a 14 karat nib, and after the description of 14 karat nib, and I'll put it up on the screen so you can understand a little bit better, you see the words Schmidt nib. Now, I think what they are in fact saying, although it's very misleading, is that you have an option between the 14 karat nib or the Schmidt nib. Except when you go and choose the nib, the 14 karat nib is no longer there. Now, did they run out of the 14 karat nib, or is this just a way to sucker you into buying or getting to see the pen? Well, it worked, because at one point I thought I was buying a 14 karat Schmidt nib. And I think I realized that there's no such thing. Having said all of that, the price was sufficient to entice me, even though it was a little bit, I would say, overly priced. It's just that, as you may know, if you've seen some of my recent videos, I'm on a Schmidt nib craze. I just had some wonderful writing experiences with that nib. So when I saw Schmidt number 6 nib, I said, you know what, let's go for it. The pen looked very enticing. So why don't we take a closer look at this mystery and see if it was worth the money I spent for this. Stay tuned. Okay, so here we have the pen. First of all, the pen came in, it's, just a wrapper and some plastic protective wrapping in a small envelope. What's nice, it was delivered to my door with nobody asking me for additional custom duties or anything of the sort. Everything was included, which is always a nice touch. So the first thing you should note about this pen is that beautiful blue galaxy type chatoyancy in the nib, in the pen. Very, very attractive. The weight, it's fairly light, but you can feel that there's some substance to it. The gold trimmings are, duofold, sort of an inspiration. Nice finial, decorative, gold colored finial there. The clip is a Parker arrow type clip, very stiff. I should pay more attention for you, the viewers, about those clips, because for some of you it may be a deal breaker. It isn't for me, because I really don't clip my pens, but I'm starting to realize that maybe when I put them into my pen case, it does make a difference. So I'm going to have to start paying more attention to that clip. In any event, the clip is a Parker inspired clip. On the center band, You have a wide center band with the embossing or engraving Admok, very nicely done. There's no description, there's no number, there's no name for this pen. At least I don't know what to call it, other than Admok Sky Blue, I guess. A decorative ring at the bottom. It's not a piston filler, it is a cartridge converter. Now, one thing to notice, and maybe keep in mind that center band, because I've got a feeling it resembles another duofold inspiration that I have, and we'll compare that in a second. So that's essentially the outside of the pen. So the attractive part of the outside, I think, is that blue chatoyant resin, along with that beautiful gold embossed finial. Let's just see how many turns. 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. So 3 turns. Not the best. Not the best. Far from it. Now, that is the gravy, or the chocolate sauce on the sundae, as they say in French. That Schmidt nib. And I'm just hoping it is as juicy and as performing as all the other Schmidt nibs that I've experienced in the last couple of weeks. It's a number 6 medium, so that's my first medium Schmidt nib number 6 size. I have broad, several, but not medium. So we'll take we'll get a closer look at that in the writing sample. Again, very typical duofold design with this black section there. So the section does not have the same material nor the same color as the rest of the resin barrel. There's a little bit of a flare, which is always nice, I think. And there's a little bit of a gold ring there, decorative gold ring, which makes it such that you need to be careful when you ink this pen to make sure you clean it up nicely. Otherwise, you will have a mess on your hands. It is a cartridge converter. There is no O-ring there in that opening, which I may very well add one, because it seems to be another trend in the pens to have that little bit of a plastic O-ring to keep it nice and tight. And this pen does have a nice, very loose threading there, and it may come loose, so it's nice to make sure it does stay where it's supposed to. What I find also a nice touch is that on that metal section there, the words Admok, or the brand Admok, is embossed or engraved, done properly, I may add, but again, no name for the pen. The cartridge converter is a cheap, or the converter is a cheap converter, plastic, but I'm hoping it will do the job. Okay, so there you have the filling system, and that very nice nib is really what attracts me to this pen, and I'm hoping it will do what I'm hoping it will do. So there you have it. In terms of the inside, let me just get my flashlight to see if I see anything of interest. Okay, let me just first take a look, and then, yeah, there's a little bit of a ledge there, which would suggest that this pen may have a sealing ledge there. So tant mieux. If this, I see a screw all the way at the end, which is probably what's holding up the finial along with the clip. Now, to what extent there's any air that will go through there, I'm not sure. But at least there's that little bit of a ledge which will help. The resin is not the thickest and it's not the deepest that I've seen. Certainly nothing compared to some of the Italian resins, for example, just as an example. But it's not a $300 pen, right? So here you have it. Let's look at the size comparison next, or a pen comparison. And I've chosen for you, I guess the blue theme is what runs here. And I try to get 6 pens that I think are representative of that Blue Galaxy resin, if you will. Okay, so here's the Admok, and I've done it purposely to split it between the Jinhao. You have the Asvine P20, which is just a beautiful pen. I just bought this, and if you saw my my first episode of my weekly recap, I bought the P20 in blue and in amber to add to that purple one that I originally purchased. It's just a beautiful pen. Great writer. And when you compare the two, you can tell the difference right away. And this is much cheaper than this thing. So there you have it. If you got to choose Asvine. Then we have my Jinhao. And this is where I'm starting to get an impression that I'm just wondering whether this Admok is just not another Jinhao. Let me just try to hold these up for you close together. Look at that band. I mean, I could have sworn that had it not been for the difference in the branding, those center bands are almost identical. And keep in mind that I believe that this additional or this changed clip is probably a newer style clip that Jinhao used on their 100s. I think originally they may have gone with the Parker, but I'm not sure. I should have checked that before I went on air. But having said that, they are extremely similar in both designs. So here you have, is Admok copying Jinhao, who's copying Dufold? Or are they both just copying Parker Dufold? I'm not sure that the Parker pens had this type of band. Certainly the one I have it doesn't have that type of band, but I know that the Parker Duofold has gone through some changes over time. You know, the setting of the finial is very similar, so it just, it gets you wondering whether or not these are just coming from the same manufacturing shop, if you will. Having said that, that's a detailed comparison. I then have, you'll see here my Momento Zero Leonardo Officina Italiana, just a Momento Zero with the 3-ringed band, which means is the newer version, not the older version. The older version looked more like this Moonman M800 in the Galaxy. And then I have a Pen BBS. Is it 350? I forget the number now. No, 480, sorry. 480 from Pen BBS, which also has that beautiful Blue Galaxy chatoyant resin. So there you have the pens capped. Here you have the pens uncapped and unposted, and you can see that they're, with just a minor edge given to this Pen BBS pen, they're all really essentially the same size. Although the Asvine, as you can see, has probably a longer section, but the nib appears to have been is placed inside the unit a little bit further down, so the nib looks a little bit smaller, but it in fact is just because it's set much deeper into the nib unit. So there you have the pens uncapped and unposted. Here are the pens posted, and in this particular, just that pen case here, or pen holders, holder drawer, I don't know how to refer to, but you could see that these three, which are all duofold inspired designs, in my view, are not great posted pens. I think they're a little bit too big. I think they're a little bit uncomfortable. In fact, I did not show you how this pen posts. It posts, it just sits there, okay? It's just, I think, it's a light pen, so it doesn't backweight it to the point where it's completely ridiculous, but I think it's too long. I think it's distracting. I don't think it's a great poster. Same goes for the Jinao 100, and even the Asvine. It's a little bit better, but not great, and that's a piston, and I think it affects the piston. But these three, on the other hand, especially this M800 along with my Memento Zero, are just great posters. You can tell why I believe Inquiring Minds, Douglas Rathburn of Inquiring Minds, is really enthusiastic about this M800, which is a real nice clone of the original Memento Zero from Leonardo. Posts very nicely, very comfortably. That's the way I believe a pen should be posted. So there you have the comparison of the pens posted, and we'll be back with the measurement table, and then finally that writing sample that I'm really anxious to get to. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back for the writing sample. In terms of the ink that I would like to use today is the Sailor Blue ink, if you will. A very nice bottle. I always appreciate, I wish they'd have, inks like this, but all in, most of the colors, the greens, the reds, the oranges. I know Sailor has wonderful inks, but this is probably my favorite. I think there's just 2 or 3 of them. There's the blue black, and then there's the black. Very much appreciated. In terms of how that ink is swatched, here it is. It's the Sailor Blue. It's got some very interesting red sheen, a nice blue color. You see the blue black from Sailor is a little bit darker, but the one we're using today is strictly blue. So that's the way it turns out on a swatch. And the paper we'll be using is this Tomoe River notepad from Galen Leather, and I think we're all set to try this Schmidt nib, and let's hope it performs as it should. Let me just here we go, get a little bit closer up. Okay, so this is the mysterious. Yeah, very nice. Admok. And for lack of better name, I call it the Sky Blue because I really don't know what the rest of it means on that AliExpress description. The nib is a Schmidt medium nib, number 6, and of course it's steel and not 14 karat as the title may have suggested originally. The ink is Sailor Blue. And yes, that medium nib, very wet. It's got that a little more than just a bit of pencil feedback, so it has a smooth, well-flowing feedback, if you will. And the more you use or you position the nib on the paper so that the nib maximize the surface of the nib onto the paper, the smoother it is, okay? But it doesn't have that interesting Schmidt feedback, I would say. Is it constant? Yeah. Fast writing. As you can see, it follows. It just keeps up very, very nicely. So I would say very wet. It is very smooth. And most constant. And the more I write with this pen, the thicker that medium line becomes, almost bordering on broad. I would say that if you took the, in terms of Japanese, characterization of lines, this would definitely be a double broad almost. But what's interesting is that I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but you can definitely see the sheen on that blue Sailor ink, which is a really, really nice touch. Okay. Some of you mentioned reverse writing, so I have to keep in mind about reverse writing. No. In my view, very, very thin, dry, scratchy line, so I would not recommend it for reverse writing. In terms of springiness, I mean, you can get a little more. I can see the ink is definitely coming down much more. The flow is there, but I'm not sure the line gets any thicker. So I'm not sure it has any line variation to speak of. Okay, so there you go. So what are the likes and dislikes? Well, I can tell you right away that at the $50, $60 mark, I think I paid this pen. I'll put it up on the screen. My distinct impression, and unless I'm really mistaken, is the value is a dislike. It's just too expensive for what you're getting. The other thing is that it appears to be a copy of a copy. It just looks like another more expensive Jinao with a Schmidt nib. Now, this Schmidt pen, that has very similar chatoyancy, okay? This is the Jinhao. It's giving me the same performance. And what I may have paid this less than $20, which is a very nice pen. The nib is a dual-toned, very nicely tuned nib. The converter, in my estimation, is a nicer converter. It's got the same trimmings with that nice finial. So why would anybody want to be paying, other than me, of course, $40 for that Schmidt nib? I'm not sure it is worthwhile, frankly. I would venture to say that I would prefer to buy the Schmidt nib on its own and just put it in another pen. The design is a copy. So, there's very little there that I would rave about. The only like for me is this nib. And, the build quality is okay. I haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise. The resin is fine as well. It's a nice, that's what attracted me to the pen, is the chatoyancy of that Blue Galaxy, along with the fact that I was getting a Schmidt nib. But is it going to be a go-to pen? Yes, because of the nib. Okay. Is it, would I recommend spending $60 on this thing? If it truly had a 14 karat nib, I would. But this Admok brand, I've seen another interesting pen that I've ordered that resembles the M800, the Pelican. I'm going to take a look at that pen as well. We should be getting it soon. So that's just a sneak preview. I've given it to you already. I've mentioned it in my recap. It's been ordered. I want to see what it gives. And I noticed they have some, they do have some gold nib options. So that this Admok pen brand for me is a mystery, and I want to investigate it a little more, because I got to tell you, if this had a 14 karat nib at that price, well, you know what, I'd be very, very interested, but it didn't. So there you have it. That's it for this review, and I want to thank you for joining me. I hope that was informative. If that pen in any way attracted you, well, you've got my point of view. At the end of the day, I don't think it's worth the extra price. If you want a similar pen that performs essentially the same way, I would suggest that the Jinhao 100, and you have many, many, many choices, is probably where to go. And if you really love that Schmidt nib, well, you know what? For maybe $20, you can pick up the nib and put it in the pen of your choice. So there you have it. Thank you very much. Grazie. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.